Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is Coffee Crusted Brisket. Today we'll be smoking up a whole packer brisket with some really fantastic earthy flavors. From the ancho chipotle injection to the coffee crust we'll put on the outside, and then finishing it on a bed of mushrooms, onions, and carrots with a red wine braise. This is one of those really great, hearty, home-cooked meals that you can repeat again and again. What we have here is a whole packer brisket. This is about a 15-pounder. We just need to do a little trimming on it. We need to take the fat off the point meat here because it's got plenty of fat running through the middle of it. And then we're gonna leave a thin layer of fat on the actual flat down there. So all of this big hard fat, we don't need that. We can get rid of that. This brisket we're cooking today is just your run-of-the-mill choice brisket. If you can get your hands on a nice prime one, that's awesome. But we're gonna treat this one right, add some great flavors to it, and I think we'll find out that you can get a really nice tender product in the end. And that product will end up costing you under $50 around here rather than say $100. All right, so that's pretty well cleaned up on the point there. I'm not gonna go crazy on it. We're not cooking for competition, we're just cooking for us. So I'm gonna leave the point just the way it is. I've got a nice thin layer of fat down here on the flat. We're just gonna trim this up just a little bit on the sides and on the bottom, and we'll get it injected. Now on this one side of the brisket, you'll find that there's usually a wedge of hard fat right under here. We're gonna trim that out just a little bit. It also continues around to where the point ends, so we can kind of take this wedge down. But we want it to also be able to lay flat, because if this just sticks out here, it's just gonna crust up and burn and we'll never be able to eat it anyway. So try to go a little aerodynamic. Now if you look at the meat on this side, see how it's all gray over here? That's not very appetizing. I'm just gonna take, it's really hard as well, so we're just gonna take that first thin layer off. And we find nice red meat right underneath there. And you'll find on the opposite side there's always going to be this big wedge of fat over here as well, which we can kind of trim out. And if you cut into that, no meat inside there, all fat. And then any of this surface fat you can clean up just a little bit. It's not a bad idea. Now this is trimmed up to my liking at this point. I'm gonna leave it sitting this way so that we can inject the flat. We're not gonna inject the point because it's got so much fat and flavor in there, but we are going to inject the flat. Today we'll be injecting using the Sweetwater Spice Ancho Chipotle Brisket Bath. Now you guys may be familiar with this, we've used it in past videos, but usually we use it as more of a marinade. So today we're gonna treat it just a little bit differently. We're gonna strain off the solids, we're gonna dilute it just a little bit differently than we normally would, and then we're gonna be able to pump all those flavors into the center of the meat rather than just marinating from the outside. So I'm gonna start off by adding 4 ounces of the Ancho Chipotle Brisket Bath. And then we're gonna add 2 cups of beef stock. So 4 parts beef stock to 1 part of the brine concentrate. So we'll give this a shake just to mix everything up, and then we're gonna strain it off. So straining this off does a couple of things for us. First of all, it lets us actually inject it without clogging the injector with those solids. And then we can actually, it's not a lot, but we can use these solids to season the surface of the brisket as well. And I'm just gonna pour off about a cup of this to reserve for the braising liquid later on. All right, so with the injector loaded up, we're gonna come in here, create a little pocket, and then pump it full. Now, if you look close, you'll notice that the fibers of the muscle are running this direction, and we're coming in right here at a 90-degree angle where we create our pocket and pump it full. And I'm just gonna work in a grid pattern to make sure I cover the entire surface. We'll just go back and forth all the way down the flat. All right, that is pumped full. So we got about 1 cup of that injection loaded into the brisket flat. It's gonna add tons of flavor. Let's jump right into the seasoning. So today we're seasoning with the Cattleman's Grill Smoky Chipotle. Lots of coffee, a little bit of sugar, just the right amount for caramelization. And of course that smoky chipotle flavor as well. And normally you guys would see me when we're putting rub on cold meat, we like to add some sort of a binder, but we've got our surface covered right now and just that little bit of excess marinade, and that's gonna work as our binder today. All right, so we'll let that set up for just a minute, then flip it over and do the other side. All right, you can see that the rub is kind of moistened now, which tells us that it's attached to the meat, so we can flip this over and season the other side. Now right here on top of the point, we're gonna add those solids from the injection, and that way we can get a little bit of that injection flavor on the point that we didn't inject. Then down here on the flat, we'll add just a little bit of that injection liquid, again as a binder, and then back at it with the smoky chipotle. All right, looking good. Let's just let it set up for a little bit, and we'll transfer it to the smoker. Today we're gonna be cooking on the Yoder Smoker's YS640 pellet grill. It's running at 250 degrees with a combination of cherry and pecan pellets. We're gonna place this brisket right in the center on the top shelf so the smoke moves all the way around it. Now a lot of times we get questions about why you're doing it on the top shelf versus the bottom shelf. It really doesn't make a huge difference on a cook like today. There can be some radiant heat that comes off the plate, but that wouldn't really hurt anything when you're cooking at 250 degrees. I like to put it on the top shelf because I feel like it's more visual for you guys to be able to see it easier. And I feel like the smoke really moves all the way around it pretty easily and right out that stack. I just like the way it flows. All right, so we're gonna put the point in over here by the stack where the air moves just a little bit faster and you get just a touch more heat right there. And then of course we've got our nice thick part of the flat here that's sitting underneath where the heat's coming off the firebox. So this is all pretty ideal for how you want to position your brisket. Now with the grill running at 250 degrees and the fan that's powering that air to push it through, what you get is a consistent thin blue smoke 100% of the time, and that is exactly what we're looking for. Well, we're about 5.5 hours into this cook now, and that brisket's been soaking up smoke the whole time. We've been monitoring it for the last hour or so, and it's right where we want it when we're ready to wrap. But before we wrap it up, we're gonna build a base of vegetables for this brisket to sit on as it finishes cooking. So we've got our foil pan that's lined in foil going in either direction so we can wrap everything up. We're gonna add to that 1.5 pounds of baby bella mushrooms that I've just cut in half. We've got 1.5 pounds of baby potatoes as well. We've got 1 pound of yellow onions that I've just quartered, and 1 pound of carrots. Now remember that 1 cup of the injection that we set aside earlier? That's gonna be the base of our braising liquid, but we're gonna add just a couple more things to it. So we're just gonna do another 1/2 cup of the beef stock, and then we wanna add a 1/2 cup of red wine. We have a Pinot Noir here. And we're just gonna pour this liquid over the veggies. This is going to create an incredible jus for us to dip our brisket in when this is all said and done. Oh, and I almost forgot to add the garlic. We got about 8 cloves of garlic. Just throw them in there whole, they'll cook down. Well, have a look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? Great crust on the outside, great color. and it smells amazing. So we're just gonna pick this whole thing up, move it to our bed of veggies, wrap it up tight. All right, with that all wrapped up, probably outgrown the top rack. So we're gonna move to the main cooking surface here. I'm just gonna go point side over the firebox since we have a little bit more mass here that we need to heat up. It's gonna take some time for us to break down all that collagen, all that fat, soften up the vegetables. So we're just gonna let it ride for now. I turn the temperature up just a little bit, 300 if you're gonna keep a close eye on it. That way you can kind of expedite the process. It's been about 9 hours on this cook now, and we're gonna do a check for doneness, for tenderness, to see how this brisket is probing. All right, I'm gonna open this up. Oh man. All kinds of great smells coming out of there. Check it out, our veggies are nice and soft now. Beautiful. Let's check out the brisket. Whoa, look at that jiggle. Look at that. That's a good sign. All right, before we check the temperature, let's actually just probe, see how soft this is. You guys see how this is just going in? It's like probing butter. My guess is this is at probably about 210 right now. 209, not far off. All right, let's do the same thing down here on the flat. Yeah, that feels nice. Just a little bit of resistance right there in the center. But I think we're gonna call this good. All right, guys, we've given this brisket a good 30, 45 minutes to rest for those juices to redistribute all the way out through the entire cut. You can see that we lost a little light in the process, so we had to change scenery. Forgive the extra road noise. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this brisket out of the packet. So we'll set this aside for now. We wanna strain off our jus from our veggies. So that right there is a flavor-packed jus. It's gonna be great for dipping these brisket slices in. All right, there's our roasted veggies. Just use a sprinkle of salt on those and they'll be good to go. All right, we're gonna slice into this brisket. As you can see, these meat fibers are running in this direction. So we're gonna go at a 90-degree angle to those. All right, well that's hanging pretty good. Let's see how the tug is. Just right. Definitely picking up on that chili marinade that we injected into the center and the coffee on the outside. That's great. It just wants to break over at the top, which is right about where we want it. It's pretty good looking. We got a little smoke ring going on. Plenty of juice all the way in the center there. Just gonna stay on this angle for a little bit here until we get closer to the point, and then we'll kind of adjust. All right, let's slice into some of this point meat and see what that looks like. Come right down the center. Look at that. You see how that fat's rendering out in between the two? Lots of fat and juice in the point meat itself. Just dripping. And just look at that bark. That's that coffee crust doing its work, and it's on point. There's some of that point meat with a little flat on the bottom. Get some slices out of our flat up front here. Now this point meat down here, that's my favorite. I'm gonna give that a taste. Get the full effect with the jus. Succulent, just melting in your mouth. I love the mouthfeel of that point and the flavor off that jus. It's beefy, there's a little bit of wine and just a touch of heat from that chipotle ancho. This is really one of those meals, it takes all day to prepare, but it's well worth it. And you've got a full meal here. You've got your veggies, you've got your potatoes, you've got your meat. It's all you need. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate you hanging out with us week in and week out. Keep those photos coming. We love to see what you're cooking. And be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com so you can pick up all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoyed that recipe, hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All Things Barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.